Let's play Fallen London. In this game, Victorian London has been drug underground by Lovecraftian horrors, where demons and strange creatures in robes with wings called masters rule the city through money and deceit. Several factions are in charge, and you can play them against each other for your likes. And it is an awesome game in my humble opinion. First thing you will need to do is choose a name and enter the various information that you required to give, and pick a gender. Normally I go with this one right here. My dear sir, there are individuals roaming the streets of fallen London at this very moment with faces of a squid. A squid! Do you ask me them their gender? And yet you waste time asking me a trifling, impertinent question about mine. It is my own business, sir, and I bid you good day. It also has some rather interesting pictures. And your gender does determine what pictures you have available. And I'm not entirely sure, but I think it has determination on things like whether you can seduce a man or a woman and what clothes you can wear. If it doesn't, it very likely will affect scandal if you go the other way. And so far, I've never had anything wrong with picking a non-gendered character. So I'll go with a gentleman, and with this fine sir here, who looks like he's in an explorer's club of some elderly men who goes out hunting or something. This thing pops up all the time. And one of the most important things here you note is you get actions. And you can have up to 20, and every time you use one, it goes down, and this candle will eventually run out. And you get a new one every 10 minutes. Now, it gives you an option of a tutorial, and I always skip it because I've played it before, and I will give you the information you need to know. You are unjustly imprisoned on a rock floating above this. Well, it's not floating, but it's hanging from the roof of a cavern. It is not a pleasant place to be, and thankfully you don't have to spend very much time there. However, if later in the game you do get arrested, you will spend a good bit more time here. First thing that happens is you gain a few abilities. They're pretty straightforward. Dangerous, it helps you in a fight. Persuasiveness lets you influence people. Shadowy helps you sneak around and steal things. Watchfulness isn't quite as straightforward, but it helps you pick up on things and has to do with your intelligence. You get an option to help you pick something you want an extra boost in at the beginning, but it also gives you specific items. And watchfulness gives you a pair of shoes, which will come in a lot of handy later on. So I always go with that. And you escape, and it doesn't really matter where you go, because you can move around after you get there. And you get a story that will be starting soon, and a diamond. First thing you want to do is go to the bazaar and hawk that diamond, as well as your various items, especially you want to keep the prisoner's mask. It gives you shadowy, but you want to get rid of everything else because it increases stats. here's the item screen. This is where you're able to equip items and for a companion, either a lackey or a pet. Destiny is a little bit more complicated, and it only becomes available through certain storylines, usually through events. Mantelpiece item is you click on something and you're able to put something on display, and when people look at your profile, they'll be able to see it. Scrapbook is the same thing, only with stories. As you can see, this is mostly just social stuff, but if you click on it, you can get a little link to show people what's going on. There's your messages, and here's the actual game thing. The game thing. But you'll notice right away that there are white cards, silver cards, bronze cards, and gold cards. There are also red cards that sometimes comes from this deck. And from this deck you will get an arrangement of cards that you can play, but you always have ones here. And they depend on your location, which you can travel around. First thing you want to do is go to your lodging, which you don't have, but you should be able to find a better place to live. Now, the first thing I suggest doing is to charm your way into someone's home. It says you only have a 30% chance, but if you try it a few times, wow, right away, I now have a place to live. And you notice I have another place to draw a card. The more places you get to draw a card, you can actually save them. And like, say I like this card, but I don't want to use it right now, you can just keep it laying there. The first thing I suggest you do, though, is to travel to Vile Garden and try and get some pearls. I don't exactly remember which one gives you pearls, but various mission gives you various rewards. This one happens to give you drinks. Now, there are some sites that I want to show you that can help you out here. The first one is the Echo Bazaar. The usefulness of the Echo Bazaar is mainly its organization. It is extremely well organized. And you can go here, and if you click on Vile Garden and your level, it'll show you everything that you can do and the rewards you will get from it. And as you can see, I might have picked the wrong place to go. Also, you will find some of them it doesn't show. This is why I also suggest Echo Bazaar Wiki. And you can just search for these, or, if you can see this, it's fallenlondon.wiki.com and echobazaar.wiki.com. The other thing that is good about these places is this has a miscellaneous, if you go down, in-game grinding. This is useful at any point in the game, as it shows good places to get every item that you will want to get. And this one has a very good selection of items. The first thing you want to do, though, is to come here and find a way to get tickets. I don't suggest you steal them. It is a very bad way to get them. I suggest you go through one of these means, and I'm going to take a little bit of a break to find the best way to get some pearls. I've looked at it a little bit, and it looks like the best thing to do is to go to the bazaar, select the Hattery, and buy yourself a pair of nether glass goggles. They come in handy later in the game. And generally, you don't want to sell hardly anything you get unless you really need the money to buy items like this. You put on your goggles, and we head to Lazy Bones Road. You'll first need to raise your watchfulness a little bit, so go poking around in the mud. And you'll fail this a lot, but you'll notice when you fail, you gain more watchfulness than when you succeed. And you want to get your watchfulness up to 10 here. When you get a 10, you'll be able to start getting pearls. And when you get enough pearls, you can start farming faction points. And you will want a good deal of faction points with everyone as soon as possible, because there's only so much you can gain through the carnival, and after that you're pretty much on your own. And if you have a certain amount of faction points, you will get cards up here that give you options. And those options will usually be between two factions, where you snub one in favor of the other. And that will raise your faction up with that one slowly over time. The only other option you have is to go here to the exchange and the pawnbrokers, and you'll see here a large selection of items. They are rather pricey, and each one requires you to spend 3 actions and a fair amount of some item, and it will give you a great amount of points in that faction, but only up to 20. And most of the stuff you want your faction up to about a 30. So that helps, but not too much. And now you notice that I have a red bordered card. These cards do not require action points, and usually are bad dreams. This one is something a little bit special. It's the counterfeit head of John the Baptist. Kind of interesting when I got this. I had never seen this before in any of my games. It's a tool that you usually use in knife and candle games, which is a form of P versus P in the game. It also has some other various uses and can actually lead to a storyline. Normally you only get it through a storyline or from killing someone who actually has it. But if you see, you go here and you click it, it opens up various possibilities, all of which, of course, I don't have any access to. But, Heartlessness 1 is easy to get, and you can employ it as a practical joke. Would you like to bring my friend a hat? Yes, that is interesting. Hedonist 11 is a little harder to get, but not that hard. And kiss its cold lips. Well, at least it's counterfeit. Having dreams of drowning in water. Yeah. You might think these nightmares, if you see them, aren't very good, but some of them can lead to some interesting conclusions. It's keeping the nightmares down that's a problem. And eventually, in a point of the game, you will get menaces. and they are bad effects. And if any of them get up to 8, something bad will happen. And by something bad, I mean you will get sent to another area of the game where you are cut off. And you will have to lower them down to get back to the game. And you will see these ambitions. These things are not currently finished, and they've been working for some time. They are extremely long storylines which still aren't finished, and right now are up in the areas of like 70 to 80 segments long, but they'll eventually have it finished. And they do have some rewards along the way, but generally it's all for the end reward, which isn't here yet, but is imaginally insanely lucrative. Right now, until quite later, I don't really suggest starting one until you know what you're going to do, because it generally wastes time and resources into getting up in the game. While I'm waiting for actions to come back, I thought I'd show you professions. This is one of your earliest goals. It's to get a job. Now, tier 1, you don't have to have anything to get, and I suggest aiming for this quite soon. And, well, just getting it right away, actually. And getting a tough as a job increases your dangerous quite a bit every week, and gives you 500 rusty gold, which will help you being a tough. So, that out of the way, you'll eventually want to aim for one of these. These paths are all rather interesting and have their own rewards, but my best suggestion is the Watcher branch, because the Midnighter has the best home edition you can get, which is far, far superior to anything else. The Shrine to Saint Joseph, I can't pronounce that. It gives you a Shadowy of 3, a Watchfulness of 3, and a Dreaded of 1. Most other home editions only give you +1 to something and +1 to something else. This is a big boost to have. Most of these other items are extremely big boosts, but you'll eventually later in the game have items that give you something similar. Another suggestion to aim for, it's a little harder to get, is a rat catcher. Why I aim for a rat catcher is the rewards. As a rat catcher, you get paid in strong-backed labor, which comes in a lot of handiness later in the game. You will need a lot of strong-backed labor at one point or the other. Of course, you need a bit of everything. But I suggest starting down as a Watcher. And to become a Watcher, you need a connection of 25 with the constables, and you have to take the story, the Cherry Man and the last constable, and abandon the Cherry Man to help the last constable. Well, the last constable's a fairly okay person, and the Cherry Man's a bit of a dick, so not a bad thing. Your rewards are blackmail material, which is hard to get, is extremely useful, and antique mystery, which is also hard to get and extremely useful. And well, generally you get paid quite well as a Watcher. And it also increases your connection with the Great Game and the constables. The Great Game isn't an easy connection to raise, so it's quite useful to have that as well. But it's really up to you. Generally, though, every one of these tier 2 jobs require you to have some degree of a connection. As you see, this requires you to have a connection with the church. Now, they also require you to have taken part in some story, but I'll go back to the Watcher, and as you can see, there's a secondary option to become one, which requires you to be connected with the Great Game instead and be a veteran spy, which is a bit harder to do, but if you missed the story or you picked the wrong path to go down, you can come back and still become a Watcher. Alright, you also notice that you get these cards back every 10 minutes too. And look, it's another bad dream. And this is a dream about death by water. I didn't get nightmares that time, but normally you do. Here. Studying the hidden language of tattoos. I thought I had an action back. I almost do. Actually, while I'm waiting, I thought I'd go over the contacts. There are several contacts to various factions that are quite important in the game. The first is the Benethek. They are part of the university and won't come up until later in the game, but they are the secular side of the university. They concentrate more on logic and more new ways of thinking, and they actually have some contact with Hell, and while that is a little bit questionable, and they do some really strange experiments, I find them to be a bit more open-minded about various things. But you might like the Somerset, which is the other faction of the university, which have extremely tight ties with the church, and they are very set in their ways, and they are very much the good old boys club. They do not want anything to change. They want everything to stick to the way it is, old ideas, and stay away from dangerous questions. There are the Bohemian. They are the partiers, the hedonists, the storytellers, the singers, the dancers, the lovers, generally the poets, and all those types of people that if you want to be a writer or the like, you want to get in good with. The church speaks fairly well for itself, the constables as well. Constables are, of course, the cops, criminals. The docks are pretty important. The docks are tied tightly to a little bit to the criminals, and if you want to keep these two tied together, but working with the constables isn't going to hurt your docks too much, but it might sometimes. Generally, though, you can be good with the constables and the docks. But if you're good with the docks and the criminals, it works out together. Some of these work together, and some of these work against each other. The Duchess is a really, really old woman who might not be a woman anymore, and has several hundred cats who serve her. And the cats talk and keep secrets. If you mess with cats, do anything bad to hurt cats, you will lose faction with her. The Great Game is a network of spies from the surface. They are very hard to get a faction with. Hell, of course, is demons. It is hard to keep faction with Hell and the Church at the same time. Gee, I wonder why. They hate each other. The masters of the bazaar are, of course, the strange creatures in robes with wings under the robes that I've talked about. You can't see any of their features, and they control the trade into the city and generally control the city itself. Getting faction with them is damn near impossible. Losing it is a good bit easier. You want to keep the faction with them. The revolutionaries are in. They want to free the city from the bazaar and its masters. The rubbery men are, well, the squid people that were talked about earlier. The society is high society. The snobbish, rich people who generally don't want to have anything to do with you until you are a snobby, rich person too. The tomb colonies are a unique group. You see, in Fallen London, no one quite dies, but they do get wounded. And that creates a problem when you get wounded a heck of a lot more than can heal properly. And after a certain amount of time, wounds can be so bad that you can't fit in properly with society without being, well, absolutely disgusting. At this time, high society snobs these people off and they get exiled to the tomb colonies. Sometimes they'll come back through various methods, trades, sneak into town. Having faction with these guys is pretty good, and considering if you piss off high society and your scandal rises too high, you'll be exiled to the tomb colonies, even though you're not messed up looking. They just don't like the things you've been doing. The urchins are the young thieves of the city. They are a pretty good faction to be a part of. They have strong contacts with criminals in the docks and generally don't get along with the widow. The widow is a Chinese criminal mastermind type person. She has a vast criminal network and controls a great deal of stuff out of a city to the east and south of Fallen London, a great deal across an ocean. So she doesn't have quite as much influence in Fallen London, but over where she's from, she's pretty much in charge, at least on the criminal side of things. So she's a very good person to have contact with as well. But she tends to clash with other criminals a little bit and the constables a lot. They all tend to clash a lot against each other, and if you give me a minute, I'll find a chart for this. Well, I didn't find a chart, but I also found this. I forgot about the Glass and the Shroud. The Glass and the Shroud are two factions that come up later in the game if you're persuasive or shadowy. Generally, the Shroud is more persuasive, while the Glass is a little more shadowy. The Glass is a faction of magicians and street and performers who use smoke and mirrors. The Shroud is a group of mystics and gypsies. They tend not to get along, and it's called the War of Illusions. You can choose sides or play both sides against the middle. But here's a little bit of a guide there. See, you will get conflict cards, and this is the best way to raise your points in them. The Bohemians and the Church clash against each other in the Kaleidoscope Church. It's basically a rather colorful, secular church that the church once taken down, and the Bohemians rather enjoy it. There's also one between the church and the Great Game, and, well, it's about someone in the Great Game who basically, I believe, it wants out of the game, I think. And you can either help him out of the game or send the message that no one quits the Great Game. The one between Church and Hell is kind of hilarious. It's called Brimstone of Frankincense. And basically someone from Hell wants you to put fireworks in the incense burners. And as hilarious as that is, it just seems wrong, but I can't help but do it sometimes. But it causes such a huge loss to the church. Well, helping the church doesn't really cause as big as a loss to Hell, but they do not take kindly to explosives going off inside their church. The docks and the urchins, basically the urchins take over some cannons on the docks and decide that they're going to be bosses of that section of the docks, or else they shoot people with the cannons. The Urchin and Hell, that's an interesting story where this Deviless decides she wants to buy the soul of a child, and you can either talk that child into selling his soul or into running like hell. The Widow and the Urchins is an urchin that is working for the widow, or you can try and get them away from the widow because the widow doesn't really treat kids that well. The Constable and the Rubbery Men, the constables are kind of just abusing of some rubbery men, and you can help the one that's guilty or whatever get away. The Revolutionaries and the Rubbery Men, the Rubbery Men are staying inside of a well that the Revolutionaries want to use. The Rubbery Men and the Tomb Colonies, I don't know, because I've never really took that one, because I like both of these. The Tomb Colonies and the Society. This is basically someone who wants to go to the tomb, wants to exile themselves to the Tomb Colonies so they can age away and, or, just be peacefully with other people like them. They have suffered from a great deal of wounds and they want to be away from their family. And their family doesn't want that. They don't want to be shamed by the exile, so instead they've locked their grandpa in the attic. It's quite a shameful thing, and you can either help him out and take him to the Tomb Colonies, or leave a polite note to let them know that he's trying to get out. There are also a couple of other ways listed here in the Echo Bazaar wiki to help you out. But, like I said, the best way is Mrs. Plenty's Carnival, which you need pearls or secrets. And if you use this to study the hidden language of tattoos and go down this path, you will be rewarded enough pearls. Once you get the pearls you need, which I will skip ahead to as soon as I can, you come to one of these two places, either the Sideshow or the Big Top. The Big Top has some of the higher class, more important factions, and the Sideshow has most everyone else. And you might have noticed while I skipped through them that yes, there is the Masters here, but you have to already have a connected to the Masters of 3, and it's a matter of luck. so that might not go well. Oh, real quick, let me get back there. You'll also notice that you have a chance of failing. That does not mean that you do not gain faction. You always gain faction with these. However, if you succeed, you gain a good deal more faction. If you fail, you just don't gain quite as much. Now, some other notes that are important for the beginning of the game is on the Bazaar, the land agency. Now, when you can see here are the keys, and you can see it allows you to store 3 cards. And there are several here that allow you to store 3 cards, and you will want to get one of these. Doesn't really matter too much which one you get. However, above the bookshop does have a storyline attached to it. And then you can eventually, I think it starts, yeah, it starts here. From here down, you can have ones that give you 4. And these can all be upgraded to 5, but it is extremely expensive. They're already extremely expensive as it is, but you can even pay more ridiculous amounts of money to store 5 cards. The Echo Bazaar, though, is a central place of the game. The most important place is selling your things. Then you have Karo's Steel. This is handheld items. These will all give you various buffs. This, however, is bottled Oblivion, and if you drink it, it allows you to lower various stats. Now that sounds kind of like a bad thing, but if you miss a story, that can come in handy. However, there is a much better way to lower stats with a pet, and I'll get to that. Now, you notice most of this stuff goes in groups of +2, then +4, and +5, and +7, and everything gets ridiculously expensive at some point. You generally don't want to buy anything until you can get to this range or this range. Around the 30 to 60 Echo range is where you want to aim for. And if you stick to it right, you will be able to get a +30. And a +30 is rather important because it really significantly lowers the threshold that you need to get 100. And 100 in each category is required to get the midpoint storyline called A Person of Some Importance. Now, if you want to spend money, you can skip that, and you only need to get 101 quality, and you can spend points of fate or Nyx to skip each one after that, or just skip one. Each one requires you spending more, though, and I really don't suggest that when you will eventually farm up these anyway. So why skip it unless you want to get to it early? I mean, if you want to, it's your money. I don't care. Hats. Ridiculous hat can also is another item that can be used to lower your stats. And they have the similar grouping. Then there's gloves. Now there are some clothing here, but then it comes down here to this guy here who has specialized male clothing, and they are rather nice, and specialized female clothing. And it seems I was wrong. It seems you can wear a dress as a man and no one will care. Which is kind of strange because there is a group in this game called the Department of Public Decency. And this is the reason why you can't have stuff like this for most people. I'm actually kind of surprised you can buy this. I didn't think you could. These are various intelligence related items, and here are items related for gaining faction. Here are the two pet ones. Here's people. Well, these are rats, but they're a very special group of rats. And here's your pets. And yes, that is a ridiculously priced. But he is extremely powerful. Now, there's this one here called the Talkative Rattus of Faba. And if you see, he gives you minus 25 to every single stat. Because he will not shut up. And he's an extremely bad distraction. And he's very loud. And he basically ruins everything that you do. And if you want to lower any of your stats, you disequip all your items that give you bonuses in that stat, and you bring this guy along. And that'll get you into various stories that might have been locked out if you had stats that were higher. This one right here is useful to buy various items that you normally would just get, but you don't want to waste time on it. I suggest never using this, as it's much better just to get what you want. And this is one of the most important ones here, besides selling items. This allows you to buy the 3 items that help you get rid of your menaces. This one helps you get rid of nightmares. This one helps you get rid of wounds. And this one helps get rid of scandal and suspicion. Although it's better at getting rid of suspicion. It's not very good at getting rid of scandal. The best way to get rid of scandal is to have friends. And if you have friends that play, you can go to your lodgings, select attend to matters of society and scandal, and send a calling card to them. And then once you do, you will be able to use them either as an scapegoat or have them vouch for you. And if they vouch for you, that will lower your scandal, and I think it slightly raises theirs. At least it used to. Let's see if I can get a pearl now, and some pearls now. Oh, nope, this gives whispers. I thought it gave pearls. Maybe it's the one, I thought I needed 10, so I guess it's the version of this that it'll have the same picture. I'll let you know when I unlock it. This is a message place. This will give you news of various events, incoming messages, and things that have happened. And if you notice, here's my lodgings. This stuff you really don't have to worry about until after you become a person of some importance. And if you notice over here, I've gained some things here. Huh. I didn't even sign up for that. I guess you just get it automatically when you choose the place you want to go. But if you don't know what's going on and you need to look something up, you can go here and see what's going on. Also, you can go to your inventory and click on items, and most of them will allow you to exchange them for higher tier items. They do take actions though, and the higher tier items aren't worth anything more than the lower tier items. So really you don't want to do this unless you need those higher tier items for a storyline. Some of them though you can actually just use. Generally though, they'll be in a category like curiosity, mystery, and wines, and there will be one category for everything that you can use that I don't have yet because, well, I don't have anything I can use. For now, I think I'll wrap this one up, even though there's really not much here. Oh, I should cover this. This is where you can buy Nix. It's basically the in-game currency for special stories. It costs real money. I don't do it very much because, well, I don't have much money. You can use it to reset your ambition, which is costly, which is why I say don't pick it until you're sure, or unlock certain stories. There's only 4 listed here, but there are more, and I'll show you how to find those. And there's the exceptional friend subscription. I like this. It gives you access to the House of Chimes. I don't remember what's in there, but I think it's some okay stuff, and it allows you to hold 40 actions at once. It only lasts for a month though, but it's not that bad. I've heard things about some of the stories, but generally from what I've heard, most of them aren't that great. I mean, they're okay, but unless you're into the story, the outcome of what they give you isn't really worth it. But the story is interesting, and they are rather involved. If you want to find more, you want to go to your lodgings and find news stories, chat with local gossip. And there aren't very many here right now, but as you make more contacts and progress along in the stories of various locations, you will have more options and people to talk to. And let me go over the options you have here in your lodgings while I'm here. Attending to the matter of the heart lets you date and marry other people playing the game. You get 5 free evenings a week, and if you're dating someone, you can spend those free evenings going on dates, and you will gain romantic notions and other useful items depending on what you do. Tending to matters of society and scandal allows you to make acquaintances with people, and you can invite them to go on for coffee, which gives you a confident smile and making waves. I'll get into confident smiles in a minute. Making waves is a matter of how much attention you have in society. The good kind, not the scandalous kind. Attending to the matter of heart takes you back to the other menu. Reject a patron. If you have an acquaintance with someone, in addition to using them to get rid of scandal, you can pick them as a patron. If they have over 100 in any particular category, you can have them be your patron and teach you in that category. And I'm not exactly sure how that works, but generally they help you raise that. And I'm not, again, you'd have to find someone. Write letters lets you send in-game measures, quit the job that you have, arrange a meeting with your contacts. I'm not exactly... Oh, that sends a card to someone. Send presents. I mean, it has various uses in games. Here's one that starts a story. And here's one that helps you get some items. It has various uses. Open up other parts of the city. This is extremely important. As you gain points in all these categories, you'll eventually reach a point where nothing really helps you raise it very much at all. And you'll have to go to new areas. As you can see here, the docks are most interesting to players with a dangerous of 60 plus, which means when your dangerous gets up that high, you want to find a way here. As you can see, there's a couple of extra areas that you can unlock, and you want to do that as soon as possible when you get to these various levels or are approaching them. And then here's some things that you can do to gain some extra items or some bonuses in raising your things. So they all require friends to do something intellectual. They also have parts to invite people to the game. I don't remember if you get any bonuses for inviting people though. And I think, Rooftop, the urchins. You will get these cards from now and again. These are contact cards, and they will have various options. One to help you improve one of your qualities. One to help you with various, either a case, an intrigue, charming someone, whatever. They'll help you with one specific type of storyline. Then you'll have a way to help you increase your holding with them. In this case, you bring them a lucky weasel, and they'll like you a little bit more. And then they'll have a profession card selection. You have to have a connection of 25 with them. You have to know how to get to the flint, and you can't have a profession, and you'll become a trickster, which is basically an older person watching over the urchins and being a little bit of a... It's a little complicated one. It eventually leads to being halfway between heaven and hell, and it's a weird profession. But they're all interesting professions, really. I suggest the Watcher, but really just go with whatever you want. And as I pointed out here, you have a lot to choose from. Oh, and journalists, and I don't see it, but there's something for being a news editor. There are some interesting storylines there for writing your own stories. They are very involved, but you can actually run a newspaper and write a book. But I'll get into that later. Much, much later. I think I've really covered enough for a first segment. One more thing I want to go over is Menace. There's four of them, one for each. Oh, and some extra. And The one for watchfulness is nightmares. They are also raised by, of course, nightmares. If it gets to a 9, you will go to a state of some confusion. After 5, bad things do start to happen, like it says. Generally, 5 is when things start to get bad. You will get some options to lower them, but every single one of these you want to keep away from 8. When you go to a state of some confusion, you will have to lose all progress in your dreams to leave, or you lose them all when you get there. I don't know. I try everything to avoid doing that because it takes a long time to get progress in dreams. Scandal, if you is tied to persuasiveness and society, and you will lose a lot of view in society if you get sent there, and a lot of high society related factions. You will get exiled to the tomb colonies. This can be a good thing for one reason, and that's if you're at a very high point in one of the stories where you're sent to breed animals. There is an animal you can only get in the tomb colonies. Wounds is, well, dangerous, and other events where you will get hurt. I have said before, though, death doesn't exist in Fallen London. However, if you reach 8, you will be separated from your body for a while. In this state, you will be basically cruising the river Styx alongside the Fallen London and out in the waters with a little visit to death. During this time, you can remember your life, and slowly your wounds will fade away. Or you can try and speed the process up by playing chess or dice with death. And playing chess with death is actually a pretty good way to raise your watchfulness. You will lose a lot, but, well, you gain more from losing. Suspicion is from Shadowy, and you will get sent back to jail if you reach 8. You will also gain a criminal record, and you do not want your criminal record to reach 5. It's bad. You have the solution that I showed you before that helps you get rid of suspicion and scandal. After 5, you can't use that anymore. I don't think, I'm pretty sure you can't use it anymore, but if you can, it has hardly any effect after that. So, you want to try and avoid being thrown in jail. Also, there are a lot of options in jail that cause you to lose points and abilities. Alright, there are some others. Uncontrollably peckish pops up sometimes, and they aren't very good. It has to do with cannibalism. Doesn't really matter how you get it, but generally it's very hard to get rid of, even by eating things. You have a very specific taste for human flesh now, and it's hard to get rid of. Plagued by a particular song, Pop Goes the Weasel. Yeah. If it reaches 5, you could pretty much lose all your weasels, which isn't particularly bad, but yes, something bad will happen to you too. Turncoat. This happens when you say that you're going to help someone and then you turn around and help someone else, particularly in the case of the last constable. If You do not, as it says, you do not want to get it beyond the pale, as it the progress between Uther or Uthos and Virginia has to do with arcology, and that will be a part of the watchfulness. Inciting Simnian revenge has to do with one of your pets, and generally might not happen. Troubled waters happens to do with sailing, and you won't see that till real late in the game. And again, the same thing with him coming this. It has to do with a scientific voyage. As you can see, it's the same guy from before. As he said, he's an archaeologist, and if you're out sailing the ocean on a scientific version, you're likely to run into him. And that's really all there is to this. And I said it before, but I wanted to make sure I'll show it to you. I popped it up during editing. The thing that we're looking for is this. Settle watch on the rear interests of the tattoo puller. You will occasionally get moon pearls from this. I also got this. Avenge a struggling artist's broken heart. I probably won't be able to get this, but it did. I was hoping that was a lead to an acquaintance. You can get some acquaintances with some certain people. I'll show them later when it gets to that point, but you can look them up on one of these two sites, and they are important. This is a very nice thing, wanted reminder of brighter days. If you get it, try and keep it, because you are able to turn 5 incendiary gossips into blackmail material. This is a very, very, very good deal. And well, that's all for now.